the notebook.
I would like to kindly ask the participants to mute their microphone. Welcome everyone. We're going to begin our ILTER webinar now. Welcome to the first webinar organized by the International Long-Term Ecological Research Network for the year of 2025. We have three amazing speakers lined up to give amazing presentations for you today. Each presentation will be 15 minutes long, followed by a 5 minutes question and answer session. You can unmute, at the end of the presentation, you can unmute yourself and ask the question, or raise your hand and ask the question, and or else you can post your question in the chat and I will read it out for you, for the speaker. To begin the presentation, line of presentations, we have first Christoph Wohner, data engineer joining us from the Environment Agency Austria. Christoph, take it away, please.
Great. Hello, everybody. I'm going to start by sharing my slides, which hopefully you can all now see. I'm going to present to you the current state of the eLTER, so-called Cyberinfrastructure. So in eLTER, the European eLTER research network, we are actually composed of a number of national networks that are working together to build a pan-European research infrastructure. We follow a site-level approach with about 500 sites across Europe, meaning we have 500 different places where we do ecological measurements that will come together in a centralized infrastructure. It follows the economic sphere, biosphere, hydrosphere, and the geosphere. This results in a lot of data sets and a lot of heterogeneous data sets. So there's a high variety of data types. We've got all kinds of different measurements, can be audio, video, can be genetic data, but can also be sensor data that's being measured in different places with different frequencies. And it also results in static and dynamic data. So we have static data sets that are prepared by data providers after extensive quality assurance mechanisms and aggregations, but we also have dynamic data sets that are captured from sensors live. So there's a lot of different things to be tackled. And for this purpose, we actually built the so-called Cyberinfrastructure, CI, where we don't just design and build individual servers, but instead we want to build a coherent research infrastructure of interconnected services. So there will be one place for environmental data, data gathering, sharing, processing, and also the analysis. It's following a modular and extendable setup and architecture of services. It will be scalable. So depending on the amount of data services and users, we can upscale and downscale it. And we'll be automated wherever possible and it makes sense. We will try our best to make user-friendly, both for the data providers as well as the data users, which will probably be primarily be researchers, and we also follow the FAIR principles of making the data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. This is what the current plan for the architecture looks like. So we've got a service portal where people can just go to and get an overview of all the different services that are employed within the infrastructure. We have a visual data discovery, which will be a user-friendly way of actually having a look at the data and visualizing it directly in the browser. We have semantic resources, ontologies, controlled vocabularies, where measurements can be described and looked up in great details. We have data labs based on Jupyter environment, where data processing can be carried out. Web apps. We have a digital asset register where all the eLTER assets will be stored and accessible, and those assets can be file-based, can be time series data, can be geospatial data. And on top of that, we will have APIs, or already have a quality assurance and quality control. This one little component right here, DIMES, is something hopefully all of you are already familiar with because it's also used by eLTER. So that's the site registry where all the research monitoring sites are being documented. And we use it in both eLTER, in the European eLTER, as well as in eLTER. So the main services for researchers, data analysts, and common users are the eLTER catalog, where we just document all of the eLTER assets, but we also have data view and analysis environment like data labs, spatial data services, basically the things that you saw in the previous slide. On top of that, we have supporting services that are facilitating and making it easier to actually find all of those different services and have explanations, definitions, tutorials, and so on and so forth. Those are the services in detail. So we have the digital asset register, which is already deployed online. So it's actually already possible to go there. I will give you the little disclaimer that it's still a work in process. It actually has a disclaimer on top of it that says that it's still work in progress. So the amount of data sets are still, the amount of publicly available data sets are limited. The ones that are not publicly available are far greater. It provides common main functionalities such as the data registry, that it issues PIDs for the data, metadata. It does data backups. We have automated data ingest functionality, so you don't have to click your way through a web interface, but you can actually just write a script to upload data to that registry. It has data cataloging functionality so that you have one user interface where you can just discover all the data. And we support a number of standards so that we can actually provide the metadata to external sites and catalogs such as the GEOS portal of the Global Group on Earth Observation. We have data labs, which are built on a Jupyter Hub environment. That's a web interface for writing scripts and executing them, which is embedded in a high-performance computing environment, so that when you run a script in there, it's actually run and executed in a computer or cyber infrastructure that enables it to run very fast. So however fast your notebook or your computer at home or in the office might be, this data lab will be much, much faster. There are some details given here on the exact setup. If someone's more interested in that, I can give you details in the questions session. On top of that, we have DIMES SDR. Like I said, hopefully you're already aware of that. It provides you information about the sites where the measurements are actually being carried out. It's used in eLTER, and actually also outside of the different eLTER networks. So you can just go to dimes.org and explore the sites. Hopefully you've actually already documented your own site there as well. If not, feel free to get in touch with me because I'm the primary contact for all things DIMES. We have the eLTER DIV, so you can go there to explore available datasets and visualize them. So whenever we have service-based data, you can actually render them in a map in there. When we have vocabularies where you can look up definitions of dataset descriptions. To make it a little more user-friendly, we've actually also already deployed a pilot for the eLTER portal, the service portal. It's basically an overview page where you can see all the services that we have. So you can go there, you can go to portal.elterri.eu. You get an overview of all the services that we have and the descriptions, and you can just be redirected to each of those services. In the future, we want to extend that functionality as well by adding a community supporting portal. So there will be a discussion forum. And we are also discussing various other features at the moment, such as user ratings or feedback forms. So we want to make it a little more democratic process where users can actually bring in their ideas and suggestions, and we'll see what we can make, what we can realize out of those suggestions. Then we have another part where we actually want to have a web app service. So a dedicated part of the infrastructure will be for running web-based solutions created by researchers as well as tech people within eLTER, so that when you run maybe a research project and you build a little web app, a little search interface for visualizing data you've generated, you will be able to publish that within the broader eLTER data infrastructure. The future goal is that we want to enable eLTER developers to deploy and update these without the need of infrastructure administrators. So we want to make it easier to bring data online and also bring services and little tools online. And the main service that we have for the data providers is data ingest functionality. So it will be possible that you have your data somewhere and you metadata and you just push it. So you put it in a web form and you just hit publish and it's done. In the background, we will also enable quality checking mechanisms. At the moment, those checks are really basic. It's about how comprehensive or how complete metadata is. In the future, we will do more intelligent checks that will also actually check the content of files, plausibility of time series data, for instance. In addition, we want to include other assets such as publications and also set up a sensor registry so that we are able to issue persistent identifiers for sensors, for instance. And of course, we also want to provide sites, and especially for datasets. For the datasets, that would be most notably DOIs. We have already endpoints for metadata harvesting for external registries. So I already mentioned it on one of the previous slides. So there's the Group on Earth observations with the GEOS portal. The GEOS portal already harvests the eLTER CI, so that when you put something on some data set on the eLTER digital asset registry, it will be made available to other initiatives as well, without you having to do anything. So you just put it in the eLTER data infrastructure and the rest will happen by itself. Another thing that we plan to do in the future is to monitor the use of provided data sets. So we will keep track of data provenance and implement additional mechanisms to just also generate usage statistics so that people not just publish the data, but they can have an insight into how their data is actually used. So here's just a few screenshots how the data ingest works in the digital asset registry. So basically, users have full control over the data sets, so they can submit the data set and they can submit the metadata. There's a publication and approval process. There are quality assurance and quality control mechanisms where data sets are being tested, which also includes a variety of logs. Like I said, this is something we are building at the moment, so there are plans for the future to extend this and add additional functionalities as well. The philosophy that we follow in general is that we want to build a powerful and complex infrastructure that supports European research. So like I said, the ELTER network, it's a pan-European research infrastructure, and we're in the process of building an IT infrastructure for such a continental research infrastructure. We want to support data providers with something that's convenient and powerful at the same time, because data management it can be very tricky, and we want to support the single researchers and the single sites by just giving them a platform to publish data and to save them, so to say, from some of the more tedious aspects of data management and data publication. And we also want to enable additional ways of doing complex data analysis by providing HPC resources, and also visualizing and presenting those analysis results directly on the fly in a web environment, and making both the input data sets as well as the output data sets available and findable and accessible. This is on a more technical part of the infrastructure. It's something for the software engineers that might be in the room. We follow the GitOps principles. So what we want to have is a single point of access for the infrastructure description and configuration. So basically, we store all of the configuration in a single place. That makes it easier to maintain everything. It keeps the CI consistent. Hopefully, it also makes it easier to resolve the problems faster and deploy it faster, and to automate more of those steps that we have. We are building a European infrastructure, but we also want to set it up in a way that it can be employed at a national scale as well, so that it's not just one big European thing, but that it's possible for national networks and also for single sites to potentially host their own instance that is connected to the central instance, and that the data transfer is done automatically between those instances. Here are the selected services that are already published online. So you can already go there and click your way through it. And it might not be populated with a lot of data at the moment, but it's functional. So if you're curious about what we have already done, what we are doing, and how it might look like in the future, please feel free to just visit those links and try it out. If you have any questions, so my name is Christoph Wohner. Here's my email address. Now we are entering the slot for questions. If you have any questions beyond the webinar, feel free to just drop an email.
Thank you, Christoph. We already have one question in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand and ask the question from Christoph directly as well. Would you like to answer the question in the chat, Christoph? It asks a question on metadata ingest. Is there a plan to provide metadata ingestion from files, example CSV, instead of from a form entry?
Directly from the files, I don't think so. It will be a two-step, well, not two-step process, but it's two separate things. So the one, you will basically be able to do an API call where you drop the data set on the catalog, but in the same API call, or if it's a consecutive number of API calls, you will also have to include the metadata. So you basically say something like, oh, I create a data set, this is the metadata, and then you do another call where you actually submit the data file. But it will also depend a bit on the service. At the moment, we prioritize the cataloging, the file-based cataloging functionality. That's the first thing that will be available. And then the service-based things are also already working, but the data ingestion for those is that will be released at a later point.
There are two follow-up questions to that, Christoph. Is the ingestion software available for review by national networks? If not, when do you plan to provide it?
We will have a round of reviews next week, but not by national networks. That's reviewed by by selected users of the catalog, and then when the review goes well, let's see how well the review goes. Then we will incorporate any change requests, and then we will do a bigger round of reviews. At some point, it will be also exposed to national networks, but that's further down the line.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christoph, for the amazing presentation. Now we are moving on to the second presentation by Dr. Siddheshwara Guru, the program lead for the Terrestrial Ecosystems Research Network, Australia. The presentation is titled EcoPlots, the Systematic Survey Data Integration Platform. Take it away, Guru.
Okay, share my screen. Can you see the presentation? Can you see the
Not
presentation?
in presentation format.
Not in the presentation. Can you see the presentation now?
Yes, can see.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So thanks, Dishani, for the introduction. So I'm Siddheshwara Guru, program lead for the Turn Data Services Analytical Platform. So first of all, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners, the land on which I work, and I pay my respect to their past, present, and emerging. So today I will talk about the EcoPlots, the data integration platform for the systematic survey. So I will talk about the problem and the context, what we are trying to solve, and then the approaches, which includes the information model, and then I will briefly show the application, and then I provide the details where you can go and play with it as well. So just to provide a context, in any ecological systematic survey, generally anybody who collects the data go and up a site, and then the data collection happens as a part of the site visit. So the observation measurement are made about the feature of a site, and then the diverse data is collected. When I mean diverse data, it can be flora survey, fauna survey, geological survey, and then the specimen collection as well. So one of the challenges that because this happens across different geographical region, across different jurisdiction, across different organization, there is no common survey protocol that is used. So each of the jurisdiction use their own survey protocol based on what they wanted to achieve. And because of that, there are multiple terminologies and definition used to define each of the terminology. So this impedes basically the integration of the data set. Okay, so typically when we get the data set, generally they put it in a database. It looks like this, and then it looks like this as well. So these are the institutional enterprise level databases, which keeps all the survey data set. So how do we bring these data together? So as I said, most of the survey basically happen at the localized level. And then the main problem is that to bring this data set for the regional and then national synthesis. So that is the major challenge for us. So again, the challenge is how to harmonize this data from multiple data sources. Okay, so the challenge is about for the data integration is for the multiple data format, as I said, and then the multiple terminologies. And then one of the major challenges is that there is no standards to represent and share the systematic survey data. So that's why we require a standard way to exchange data, to represent them, and then make that available. So this will enable the data interoperability, and then so that enables us to build a validation tool and exchange data across the multiple sources. So that's what exactly we did. So we built the common information model based on the ontology, semantic sensor network ontology, to represent what systematic survey, what happens in the systematic survey. What we do is that, okay, we take a data from a multiple source, map into that common model, and then make that available. bring them all the data set together and then build like a front end to that database so that it can be shown, it can be viewed by the user. So just in summary, what we do is we take the source data, we add meaning to that, because as I said, each of the terms may be same, but it has got a different meanings. That's why we add semantics. Semantics is the meaning to each of those terminologies, and then we integrate the data set. That's what we do as part of the complete process. So I'll just briefly explain the information model, what we use, and then go from there. Okay, so as I said, the information model, what we build is based on generally semantic sensor network ontology. We use a lot of the RDFs, and then we validate that using a shackle shape language as well as a constraint. So all the vocabularies what we have built is based on this cross-based. So the complete information model is semantic web enabled. So just to step back and then see, how do we model? So if for any systematic survey, there's a site, and then as part of the site visit, number of activity happens. So the activity can be the measurement or the observation, to make an observation, or to do some sampling, or as part of the intervention, to do some intervention and then do the observation. Intervention can be like a bushfire mitigation, like a burning, and then the culling the invasive species, etc. Okay, if we just extend that to the model for each of the each of this activity, so it has got a procedure, and then it has got a result, and then the observable property, and then the result of that observable property. So for each of this activity, there is a feature of interest. So for example, when we go to a site, it measures based on a feature. So for example, if the systematic survey is measuring the individual plant, individual tree in the site, the feature of interest is that tree, and then the feature type is the individual plant, kind of a thing. So what we have done is that instead of creating a class for each of those features, we have created a vocabularies to describe the feature type. So each of the feature type is basically the property of the feature of interest. So again, if we look at the community level, so the feature type is a plant community, and then the observation happens that. And then it's a very opportunistic observation. The feature type is like an occurrence. If it's measuring the plant occurrence and then the animal occurrence, and then the observation happened at that level. Okay. So if you look at that, the harmonization point is that feature type. So even if we bring data from a different sources, as long as feature types are common, then you can integrate those data set. So for each of the observed property, it will have a it will have the meaning to that one, which has got a URI. So user can look at that and then see what exactly is the meaning of that observable property. So for example, so this is one of the soil profile in soil to monitor soil characteristics in turn surveillance monitoring. So basically they take like a 1 meter pit, and then they look at the profile. So the feature type is a soil profile, and then that feature of interest has got an attribute depth range, because they will look at the profile, they measure, they have attribute depth range, and then the location as well where the sample was collected, and then they do the observation activity. So they collect the soil color, soil horizon, pH, and effervescence, kind of a thing. So for each of those, there is so soil profile has got a vocabulary which is in the link, and then it has got a procedure for each of the observation where you can go and look what are the procedure that was used, and then each of these observed property will have a URI associated with that goes to the control vocabulary and then describe what exactly the meaning of each of those attributes. So that is how we describe. Whenever we get the data, we describe like this. Okay, so I just quickly provide an overview of the ecoplots. So the ecoplots is basically is a data integration platform for the systematic survey. And so because we map each of the observations, so you can query the individual observation of any systematic survey. For example, when I'm showing that the soil profile, you can go and look at what was the pH of the soil profile at the depth 10 to 20 centimeter, for example. You can go to that level query and then pull only that information. So we provide a multiple facet. So we index each of the sites across different, what we call it as an administrative area. These are very Australian centric. So Australia has got like a bioregions, which is developed by the Department of Environment. So this is used to administer a lot of the projects and then develop a lot of reports. And then the local government area, NRM regions, state and territories, and terrestrial CAPAD, again, this is the Australian centric. So this is revisited every 10 years, and WWF ecoregions as well. So this is a worldwide. So we index each of those sites. So you can search based on any of these one. And then you can search based on the data source. If you know the data source, you can click on that one and then search for it. And then you can search based on the feature type. What are the feature type you wanted to look at, kind of a thing. And then you can even search based on the procedure that was used to collect and make the observation. And of course, you can search based on the parameters, and then you can give a time range. And then most of the data set you can download based on the Baggett specification. And so once you're happy with the data, you can even mint a DOI for all your data set, whatever you have downloaded for. So just to provide a bit of a screenshot of the how it works. So this is the home page. You click on that search plot data link. It will come to this is a facet and then the result page. And then there is left-hand side is the facet. You can make some selection. So here what I've done is I'll make a data source as the Turn Osplots Forest. And then I've selected a particular site in that one because it shows. If you see in that facet, you can select, you can select only the revisited sites. If you just enable that one, it shows only the revisited sites and the thing. And in this example, I've selected the feature type as the plant individual and then the plant community. What I mean is that the measurement that is the feature type is at the individual plant level, at the community level. So this is basically the result I get, the site visit. Generally, you get a separate tab for each of the feature type. And then in the plant individual feature type, if you click on the site ID, it will show all the information about the site, what all the information, the description and everything about this site. And then if you want to download this data, you click on the get download, and then it will ask you to select any of the attributes. By default, we auto select some of the things, but there are more attributes. If there are more attributes, you can select them. And then it will ask you to log in. Once you log in, then it will come to this download page. It will show all the search result, what you have made, and it will ask you to output a format. So we provide data in a multiple format, in a CSV format, which is just the observation data, the site visit, feature type, and then the observation. And then we provide in a GeoJSON format as well, which is a bit of an hierarchical, which adds a bit of a more information. Or you can download in the ontology file as well. So this is like a complete information with all the URIs and everything. You will provide it. If you want all the three versions, you can select that as well. So once you select that one, it will go to the download page. It will take a bit of a time. Once the packager is ready, you will get an email, and then you can come here and then. So in an email, you will have a link to the download of that file. And in next time when you log in, you can just come here and then you click on that action button, and then you can download the thing as well. So assume that you have accessed some data set, you have written a paper or do some work, collaborate, and then work on something. And then assume that you want to write a paper, you want to mint a DOI for that particular thing. You can go to this page and you can mint a DOI for that data set, what you're downloading. So, so once you download, this is basically typically the file. So we use a Baggett specification to provide data, and then we provide the AutoCrate metadata as well. So this is the download information you provide. So if you look at here, we provide how do you cite this data, the citation information in bib and RIS format as well, and then the data in a CSV, because here I asked for a CSV file, and then the turn ontology CSV file. So the CSV file provides only the data set, turn ontology provides the complete data set as well, which is compliant to the complete ontology files and everything. So in summary, we have built like a semantic web platform to integrate with systematic survey data. We have built an information model based on the socio-ontology. And then this is basically, we have worked with the Department of Environment in the Australian government, federal government, to build an information model which is used in their repository as well, which they call it as a biodiversity data repository. So the same information model is used. So these are the links for the first one is for the ontology, and then the second was vocabulary, and then third one is for the application, which you can go and look at it. So finally, I want to acknowledge all the team members and then the RDC infrastructure where we run this platform. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me in the future as well. This is my email address. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Guru. Now is the time for questions. If anybody in the audience has any questions, feel free to raise your hand and ask Guru directly. Meanwhile, we have two questions in the chat, Guru. Are all your controlled vocabularies published in a journal or on a website? If so, could you provide links for that?
Yeah, so it is published in a website. I will add a link. I showed in that one. I will add a link in the chat as well once I finish my presentation.
Okay. And another follow-up question to the same. Do you have statistics on how often people search by different criteria? And the question is also asking, like, wondering whether searches by site visits are not so popular as searches by parameter of interest data sets.
So we collect some information on, what the people do. So there is a mixed result, honestly. We haven't done like a detailed analysis of that one. So the typical search people do is on the parameters. They just go to the parameters, and then from there they refine. So parameter is the very popular search people do.
Okay. Thank you so much, Guru. And next up, we have the final presentation for the day from Leo Chiloane, a data node manager from South African Environmental Observation Network. Leo is presenting today about a presentation titled Developing a Data Infrastructure for Open Access Decision Support Tools. Leo, please take it away.
Thank you. Can you confirm that you can see my slides in presentation mode?
Yes, we can see it, Leo. Thank you.
Thank you. So my talk will be in two parts. The first part, I'd like to highlight the SAON system, the SAON data platform. And then the second part of the talk, I will highlight the work that we do to support decision support at a local level with the South African Risk and Vulnerability Atlas. All right, so SAON was established in 2002 with a mandate to provide research infrastructure platforms for sustainable society. So we have 7 nodes, 4 focused on terrestrial sciences and 2 on marine sciences, and then a dedicated node on data and ICT, which will be the focus of the talk. We also host 3 research infrastructures, But as you can see, this map above has all the SAON sites in country. And then here I have included the areas of operation outside, just outside of that in the marine sector. So our operations go all the way to Antarctica, but that does present some complexity in data management because we end up dealing with data from multiple science disciplines. I think the other presentations have highlighted this as well. But additionally, in our context, often the stakeholders we have to deal with are not really a research audience. So your local policymakers expect data to be interpreted to some extent before accessing it. So for this reason, it's often difficult to implement a universal solution for data management. So the way we've structured our platform is we are running it as a system of systems that's coordinated in 4 areas, focused on ICT infrastructure management. So at SAON, we have to manage our full infrastructure in-house, data curation, systems development, and data science. And it does have a modular design that supports a variety of data types, organized into distinct layers, including a metadata catalog, a data repository, administration interface that links with external systems, and then a layer that supports the downstream development of data products. As you can see, what you see in this large circle is our internal processes, but outside of that, we are expected to cater to other organizations as well. This just presents it from an information modeling perspective. So the platform really covers 5 use cases for data management. One is data preservation. Secondly, data publication, accessibility, so how external systems interface with our core data infrastructure. And then what we're seriously trying to work on at the moment is the vocabulary services to aid with this interdisciplinarity as well. And then obviously interoperability and integration with other systems. So as you can see, next on this side of the archive, we run different data archival systems, 2 of which are internal to SAON, and then some are external for South African government departments. And then what you can see on this side, it's the outward facing systems. So SAON data portal that has all the metadata published, a marine data information management system, and then we push our data to the ocean data information system, IOD, and the global Earth observation system of systems. At the moment, this whole process is a bit manual, but we are trying to automate some of the steps, especially around data ingestion. But the way we work with stakeholders, we start from the data management plan, take them through submission, verification. If everything is approved, it gets a DOI and then gets pushed into the relevant system. So, and then comes this challenge of having an audience that's not primarily researchers. So the core SAON data platform caters to researchers, offers access to pre-processed and analysis-ready data. But beyond that, we have to take it one step further and engage with local communities. And for that, they expect data to be interpreted to a certain degree. So we have been contracted to host the South African Risk and Vulnerability Atlas to help with local decision support. So it's an open access platform that unites data to provide visual representation of interconnected problems. As mentioned, some of these products need to be decision ready. So the way to do it is integrate data sets into some kind of a visual component. It's usually in the form of atlases. And then we engage with local communities to disseminate that and do focused case studies on each. So at the back end of this is the core SAN system offering metadata records, but the atlas itself translates data into usable information on risks and vulnerability, looking at the economy, settlement, society, and the environment. And then we have to create some visual tools to aid with the interpretation of data. And linked to that are the SDGs. So what we are mandated to do to some extent is to try and see how we can align our data sets with the SDGs. At the moment, we have coverage of 15 out of the 17 goals. But in the next cycle, what we're planning is to partner up with the Statistical Bureau to do this as part of a formal national reporting framework. So all the data sets that are in this atlas are associated with some type of SDG currently. As you can see, I just pulled some snippets of examples of typical things that are supposed to help with. Loss and damage to natural disasters is one of them, and assisting communities, mostly municipalities, in interpreting this information, integrating data sets from disparate sources. And then now with advancements in AI, because we're not well capacitated, we do have an industry partner that assists us with data mobilization. So what we do in this partnership, it's an organization called Zindi Africa. They host the largest community of African data scientists working to solve the world's problems. So what we do in this partnership is we help with data mobilization and then propose a challenge, and they have a dedicated team of scientists or data scientists that help us with getting results from that, and then they share it back to the platform. Just another interesting thing, South Africa recently passed a Climate Change Act, and with that, it sets out the functions of a presidential climate commission. With the portal, we've been managed to get exposure to some sort of collaboration with them. They've contracted us to work with the South African Weather Service to produce a comprehensive climate risk report. And this working group reports directly to the president. So it's work that we're currently focused on at the moment. And then because of time, I couldn't highlight the full platform. So this just provides a sitemap. But if you go to the links that will be shared in this presentation, basically information is organized into data and observations, including SAONs, the maps and tools. And then we do environmental risk and vulnerability profiles, provide training materials and resources, as well as information or contextual information on national legislation. Because of this, the dynamic nature of the atlas, we have to integrate data sets from different sectors and different data providers. So in the platform, we have a lot of data contributors that are external to SAON. And then our collaborators, Institutes for Global Change, also funded by the same department at local universities. And then we collaborate with the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, and the Environment to action the Climate Change Act. And then Zindi, the one that I've already highlighted, which is our AI data science partner in industry, and the South African Weather Service. Just to conclude, SAON data is not only currently doesn't just cater to researchers, but it's expected to cater to the public, general public as well. So hence the need for these Atlas tools. And then we've established this platform so that other initiatives can use it to share their data and harvest collections from our platform. But what we've often found is that there still needs to be some capacity building around opening up data, because in our context, the process of signing data sharing agreements is often a barrier to new product development. And because of the diverse stakeholder landscape, what we often find is that demand for new products and services actually act as a barrier as well to advance our own internal platform speedily, because we have to produce new products to respond to whatever's happening in the country. Currently, the platform is interoperable with the GEOS portal, the IOD system of UNESCO. And then at the moment, we're working to integrate, at least on the ocean side, biodiversity data with the Ocean Biodiversity Information System. I'm going to stop there.
Thank you so much, Leo, for the wonderful presentation. Audience members, feel free to ask questions. Raise your hand and unmute yourself to ask questions from Leo directly. In the meantime, we have a question for you in the chat, Leo. An audience member is asking, does your network have a legal mandate to provide official data, or is it limited to sharing your research without policy implications?
At the moment, we don't have the direct mandate to provide that, but our partners do. So whenever we collaborate, they carry that mandate. For example, this climate risk report I highlighted, the South African Weather Service has that mandate, and we're supposed to help them with the data analysis part of it.
Does that answer your question? The question is also asking about specifically about SDG data. With regard to SDG data, how would you go about it, Leo?
At the moment, it's manually tagged and published after review, but what we are aiming to do, at least in the next year or so, is to have an ontology around this.
Awesome. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Okay, thank you so much for the amazing three presenters, for your very organized and detailed presentation. And it was all three presentations were very interesting. Thank you so much, Christoph, Guru, and Leo. And thank you so much for the amazing audience. Also, we have over 35 countries represented here today. And I have posted our YouTube, ILTER YouTube link. This recording will be available on that YouTube channel. And I have also posted a link to subscribe to the ILTER newsletter. And I'm posting the link to sign up for the Early Careers Researchers Network. If there are any early career researchers in this audience, feel free to join this. This is also an amazing platform to connect and collaborate across the globe. Until we meet again, through the next webinar. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.